Okay. All right. Today's lesson is going to be just reaffirming what the different parts of the heart are and which way blood is actually flowing through the heart. There's going to be a quiz in 3 days on knowing every structure within the heart and knowing where blood is going, what type of blood that is too. So let's do the first part of the heart. My computer's been having a few technical glitches, so if I have to pause and correct it, just bear with me as you watch. Try to make this as seamless as possible. Let's go ahead and get started. There's one little glitch. The screen just completely flipped upside down. On the screen for the projectors, you guys don't see anything, but on mine, it's completely just flips and it's aggravating me. All right, cross fingers. Let's begin. Let's start with Jack. Jack, I want to start with the part of the heart that receives deoxygenated blood. Is that the left side or the right side? It is the right side. And can you tell me the two structures that deoxygenated blood enters the heart? No, not the pulmonary arteries and veins. That's not it. Pulmonary means lungs. We're trying to find where oxygenated blood enters the heart. Sam? Okay, the vena cavas. How many are there? What are their names? Which one is on the top of your heart? Right. Superior means above, inferior means below. So here is the superior. I should probably get a little bit of a more emboldened pen. There we go. Superior vena cava. Down here we have the inferior vena cava. Now, something that all of you in class are going to be able to see, I'm going to hold up this big, giant elephant-sized heart I have. These are the vena cava. This is the inferior, and this is the superior. And if you hold it like this, this is your right side. Or superior, which is on the top, blood is coming in from your head and your arms and your chest. It's entering the heart through here. This is the inferior vena cava. Blood is entering your heart from your abdomen, your legs, and all your organs down there. Is this blood oxygenated or deoxygenated? If it is, everything's hacking. Is this oxygenated or deoxygenated blood? Blood that is returning to the heart from the body. It's deoxygenated. Why is it returning to the heart? To load up on the oxygen. Okay. Grace, what chamber does oxygenated and deoxygenated blood enter? The right atrium. The right atrium is right here, guys. Right here. This is the first chamber that deoxygenated blood enters the heart. Okay, Scout, what valve does the right atrium have to have blood pass through to get to the next spot? This is the tricuspid valve. Now, on your paper, you guys had AV in parentheses. Do any of you recall what AV stands for? It's one giant word. Atrioventricular. What chambers is it referring to when you hear that? Atrium and ventricle. Atrioventricular. They take two different body parts that have an association with each other and just kind of fuse the words together, like gastroesophageal, gastrointestinal. We had one endonervous. That's it. Endonervous. Your hypothalamus is an endonervous organ. It has an endocrine function and a nervous function. All right. And then Eva, what chamber does the right atrium empty blood into? The right ventricle. Okay, Isabella, there's another valve here. It goes right there. What is that valve called? That's the pulmonary valve. You can also call it the semilunar valve if you like. Whenever you guys hear the term pulmonary, what organs did I need you to remember? Lungs. Lungs, lungs, lungs. Whenever you hear the term pulmonary, you need to think of your lungs, your left and your right lung. All right, let's move on to Noah. Noah, what is this large blood vessel that follows the right ventricle known as? Pulmonary trunk. Pause out for a second. My screen just randomly flipped upside down. This is the pulmonary trunk. Okay. The pulmonary trunk is like a trunk of a tree, and trunks of a tree have branches, and this branches to a left direction and a right direction. Jackie, what are these arteries that the pulmonary trunk breaks off into? Left pulmonary artery and right pulmonary artery. I'm going to get this written down first. We got the left pulmonary artery, and we got the right pulmonary artery. What's your question? The pulmonary trunk, is that little space in there? Okay, that's a good question. It's just, Jackie, this whole thing, I want to make sure it's very clear. This whole thing here is the pulmonary trunk. Okay, now listen to me. This part is just uncovered. Okay, it's like somebody took the covering of it and wanted you to see the inside. It's just like this heart I have here. Jackie, look at this. Is all of this heart uncovered? Like these blood vessels, can you see inside those? No, but can you see inside the chambers? Yeah, so in the chambers, the top has been taken off so you can see inside. On this diagram, the part I highlighted green and blue, that part has just been, look at me, it's been like uncovered. Everything else that I have highlighted in blue is not uncovered. All of that is the trunk. That little rounded part is just, it's like this. I got some for you. See if this will hopefully help you understand a little better. Watch this. Actually, let me try something a little better. I want to make sure I totally understand where you're coming from. I just want to make sure I do my best to try to help you understand this. Okay, so Jackie, this is let's say this is a blood vessel. Here, you can see the inside of it. Everything else, you can't. It's like the opening of a tunnel. Do you understand what I'm doing? So that's what that's trying to depict on that drawing of the heart. It just shows the opening of the pulmonary trunk, but eventually it gets covered up and you can't see inside of it anymore. Does that make sense to you? So the actual heart is covered up. Yeah, it's opened up so students like you can see what's inside of it. So it's actually closed. It looks, yeah, the heart looks like this. And what we're doing for learning is opening it up to see what's inside. You understand? Okay. Does anyone else have that question or concern? Well, good. Same, are you awake? All right. Okay, do any of you recall what is unique about the pulmonary arteries? They're the only arteries in the human body that they carry deoxygenated blood. Every other artery in your body carries oxygen. These are the only ones that don't. Now, the rule that says that arteries carry blood away from the heart is 100% for your entire body. Every artery carries blood away from the heart. But all but one type of artery carries oxygenated blood. This is deoxygenated. And that's it for half of your blood flowing through your heart. Over on this side of your heart, you would have your left lung. And over here, you would have your right lung. Which lung is actually larger? Your right lung. When you say, I pledge allegiance to the flag, no one does this. You do this because your heart actually kind of curves into your left chest. And so it gets into your left lung. Your left lung is just a little bit smaller. It has 2 lobes. Your right lung has 3 because it has to make room for your heart. Okay, so what I want to do now is I just want to highlight all the parts of your heart that actually carry deoxygenated blood. So let's start with Sam. She said the inferior and superior vena cava. So there's the vena cavas here. And here, just by the name, vena cava. Are these veins or arteries? They're veins. How else do you know they're veins? Are they taking blood to the heart or away from the heart? To the heart. Okay, then we had Grace saying that the right atrium is where the vena cavas empty into. Scout talked about the tricuspid valve. It's one of your 4 valves. It prevents blood from going backwards. You don't want blood flowing in the wrong direction. So once blood has entered the ventricle, the valve will close. It prevents blood from going backwards. That would be really bad. And then we had Eva say the right ventricle. Okay. Isabella mentioned the pulmonary valve, which is also called the semilunar valve. And then Noah had us do the pulmonary trunk. And then Jackie said the pulmonary trunk breaks off into the left and right pulmonary arteries, the only arteries in your entire body that carry deoxygenated blood. And that's about it as far as your deoxygenated side. Now let's switch over to red and your oxygenated side. So Jackie, actually, no, not Jackie. Let's go to Lillian. What blood vessels allow oxygenated blood back into your heart from your lungs? They're not just called veins. Pulmonary veins, your left and right pulmonary vein. Give me a second. My screen just flipped upside down again. There we go. Left pulmonary artery and right. Oh, did I say artery? I'm going to say vein. Excuse me. Okay. The fact that I'm using red tells you what about the blood? It's oxygenated. Now, is it actually red and blue in your body? No, it's just dark red and bright red. This is what we use for students, no matter what level of education, to help you learn the difference between oxygenated and deoxygenated. Okay, let's go to Sloan. What chamber does blood come into after the pulmonary veins? The left atrium is correct. Okay, let's move on to Hannah. What valve allows blood to pass from the left atrium into the next chamber? This is a bicuspid valve, and there's also a third name for it that I want you guys to know. It's also called the mitral valve. So if possibly that word is used on your test, I don't want you to act like you've never seen it before. The mitral valve is just another name for the bicuspid valve, which is between the left atrium and, Halen, what's after the left atrium? The left ventricle. Good. That's your 4th and final chamber. Let's move on to Melanie. What is the final valve? It allows blood to leave the left ventricle. It's the last valve. What was on your list? You had 4 valves. We used 3 of them. I know you can't see your list right now, but you had a list and you did all 4. Hopefully. We've done 3. We've done your tricuspid valve, that's 1. Your pulmonary valve is 2. Your bicuspid valve is 3. This valve is named after that arch up here. It's the aortic valve. Okay, and then Alyssa, what is this arch called? Aorta or aortic arch, same thing. All right, we're almost done. Dan, blood is going to exit the aorta through the top here. Your heart is right here. What parts of your body would receive blood from the top of your aorta? Your head. Anywhere else? Arms and head mostly. And then Chris, we had to draw this last little part down here, kind of coming from behind the heart. What is that? That's the descending aorta. Tyler, what parts of your body are going to receive blood from the descending aorta? Anything else? When you do sit-ups, what muscles are you working out? Your abdomen. What's in your abdomen? For what systems? And? Yeah, keep going. It's a system we haven't done yet. Mr. Thorson, can I go to the bathroom? I've got to do number 1. Urinary. So all those systems have to get nourished by blood coming from your descending aorta. And Dylan, I don't know what question actually. How was your weekend? Great. Okay, I want to make sure I ask everybody a question. All right, let's highlight these parts. Here we go. We enter through your pulmonary veins. They're the only veins in the body that carry oxygenated blood. Then we have the left atrium. The left atrium leads into the left ventricle. Kind of sloppy with my highlighting because I'm trying to get a move on. Then the left ventricle, you have the bicuspid that separates those 2 atriums. Then you have the aortic valve at the end after the left ventricle. And then you have your aorta, which you may also call your aortic arch. Your aorta is about the size of your thumb as far as the circumference of it. And then we have the descending aorta coming out from behind the heart. And that's pretty much the flow of blood. If I were to draw you an arrow, like a solid arrow, here we go. We're going, I can do bigger than that. There we go. We're going in here. We're going up to here. That's one way. And then out the heart. Okay. You will need to know all of those. Perfect timing. Tomorrow we'll talk about blood pressure, systolic and diastolic.